Hello everyone. Welcome to another Playground Sessions live lesson. Here we are again. I'm glad to see you all. I'm Phil. I'll be your instructor for the day. And today we're going to be talking about something that too often either gets overlooked or gets a bad rap. But I was pleasantly surprised to see that you guys really wanted to cover this stuff. So today we're going to be talking about music theory. Now, did somebody say a bad word? The music theory, this thing definitely gets a bad rap, and I'll tell you what, we're going to be talking about music theory and we're going to flip it on its head. We're not going to be getting our books out and writing, although later on in this lesson we are going to be doing a pop quiz, and so I want to tell you guys to stick around for that. We're going to be talking about something specific to do with scale degrees, and then I'm going to test your guys' knowledge on that. And I'm going to be giving out some little minor prizes, so stick around for that too. But music theory, it's terrifying. But it doesn't have to be, all right? Because it gets a bad rap. Now, most people think that music theory takes the place of creativity, or takes the place of musicianship or performing or whatever your goals are, whatever you want to be doing at the piano. Some people think theory takes the place of that or gets in the way of that. But I'm here to tell you that music theory understanding can open up so many more possibilities for your playing. It can aid your playing. Okay, so they help each other. It's not one or the other. We're going to talk about all that today. We're going to be talking about music theory, and we're going to be talking about why it's important to learn music theory. Why should we learn music theory? Well, like I said, they help each other. When you're performing, if you've learned a song, maybe you don't need to understand the theory behind it to be able to play it, but it's going to help you learn that song easier when you're learning it. It's going to help you learn it faster, too, because you're going to start to see patterns in the music. To put it bluntly, music theory is the sort of the rule book for music. It's the how and the why behind a lot of music's mysteries, if you will. And so to learn music theory, you're uncovering music's mysteries, which helps you get a better grasp. It helps you become a better listener, too. You're going to be more informed as a musician, and that can't hurt anything, right? So it's important that you build some time into your practice sessions to focus on some theory. There's a lot of other benefits to learning theory, and we're going to be talking about theory throughout the whole month. That's right, you guys voted on this topic. So every Wednesday in January at 6 p.m. this time, I'm going to be bringing you guys another lesson on theory, Today is all about kind of Theory 101. What is theory? Why? What are the main avenues that we want to include in our umbrella category of music theory? And then each lesson after in this month, we're going to take a deeper dive into one of those avenues. So I hope you guys will join me every Wednesday this month. In February, we'll change topics. Maybe we'll change days and times, and we'll take it from there. So today is all about Theory 101. Now, before we get into the meat of this, I just want to check in and say hey, because I miss you guys. It's 2020. It's a new year. How are we doing? Who's hanging out? All right, let's check in with the chat. All right. Hey, guys. Charles Goldsmith from London. How we doing, Charles? Thanks for joining. Sarah Pickles, nice to see you. She put her own name in there. All right. Chad Miller, and we are here. Nice to see you, Chad. All right. We have a wizard owl in the building. Hello. Hey, Terry. Jazz chords, please. All right. I'll give you one jazz chord, and if you can name it, I'll give you a free song credit. Whoever can name this jazz chord. There you go. There's your jazz chord. Who can name this? G, F, B, E, G sharp or A flat. And another B. Any takers on this one? I'll check the comments later for that. Hey, Terry, are you feeling any better? Oh, Terry, were you sick? Were you down and out? I hope you're feeling better, and I hope you're back at the keyboard. Chad Miller says real world theory for us normal folk. That's funny, Chad. That's kind of what we're doing today. We'll get into it in a minute, but yeah, I want to make theory accessible for you guys. It's important to learn, but too often it feels stuffy or intimidating. I want to make it more accessible. So that's what we're going to try to do today. Stanley says, I'm new here. Welcome, Stanley. In fact, please, everyone, give Stanley a warm welcome. We love having newbies in the room. Stanley, are you an app user? Do you have a subscription with our interactive app, or did you just come in on YouTube? Let us know. All right. All right, so Ludi Love. Hello there from Pasadena, California. First live session with the app open on my desktop. Sweet! Thanks for joining us. So today is actually going to be less of a playing lesson than what we usually might do. In past lessons, I've taught you about chords, for example, and I'll say, now play along with me on your keyboard. But today's lesson being more about theory, it's going to be a little bit more intellectual and a little bit less technique-driven, if you will. But I'm glad you have your whole setup up. And for those who do have the keyboard in front of you, later on when we do the pop quiz, you may have an advantage because I'm going to be asking you things about scale degrees. But we'll get there. So it's great to see you guys as usual. And oh, one more thing from Sarah. She says, it tells you the how and the why and to improve. There you go. Yep, so theory is important, and so we're going to get into it. There are, well, you could argue about how many avenues there are in music theory, but we all can agree on the main ones, I think. And so what we're going to cover this month are four what I believe to be important topics within music theory. The first one we can boil down to the essence of just pitch. Okay, that's just a single note, essentially. And any note on the keyboard, and even outside of the keyboard, we're talking any instrument, a note is a pitch. This is the sort of the basic essence of a scale, right? A scale is an organized group of pitches, and there are multiple different scales depending on how you want to use them. And a scale is essentially the building block of a melody. So we all know what a melody is, right? It's the part a singer would sing, or you'd play up here in a playground arrangement. It's the part that has the lyrics. And the melody is super important. It's often what we learn first about a song when we're babies. We learn these child melodies. So a pitch is at the essence of this pillar. I would say we're going to look at individual notes. We're going to look at how they're organized in scales. We're going to look at the functions of each of those scales. And as a composer or an arranger or an improviser, how and when would you use those scales to express yourself in different ways? I had a great lesson today, actually a one-on-one lesson with the winner, with one of the winners from our holiday challenge back in December. The winner's name was John, and he and I had a one-on-one lesson today where I critiqued him and answered questions for him and helped him sort of structure a practice session. And we talked a lot about melody today. We talked about the role it can play and how exciting it can be to pair melodies with different kinds of harmonies. That's going to be our second pillar that we talk about for music theory. It's essentially combining the first thing, combining different pitches and playing them at once. So you could say a scale is the organization of multiple pitches one after another. You could say that harmony is the combination of more than one pitches at the same time, okay? This obviously opens up a ton more possibilities in music because now we have two or more notes to choose from and all of their combinations. This, of course, means chords, right? Harmony is sort of the official way of talking about chords. And the chords that we most often see are on the piano. They follow rules, and we've talked about this stuff, the key signatures, scale degrees. They impose sort of like rules or parameters or organization, right, on the chords that we are playing. And so we're going to be able to dig into all of that stuff as well. What are the rules for chords? What are the rules for building chords? And when can you break those rules too? And what is the effect as a composer, arranger, or improviser that you want to have by following the rules or breaking the rules? Okay? So that's another big area that we're going to spend a whole lesson here in January talking about. The third thing I want to talk about, some of you may have guessed, and that's rhythm. Okay? Every one of these categories has sort of like practical application and playing elements, and then they have theory elements. So melody, chords, and rhythm. There's sort of theory that we can talk about with rhythm, and we will. We're going to talk about how rhythm adds motion and movement and momentum to harmony or melodies. Rhythm is essentially the manipulation of pitches or harmonies over time, and it can be the implementation of patterns to the music too. So when you start thinking of rhythmic patterns and tempos and the effects that those can have on the listener, you can start to imagine the areas that we can get into there as well, and we will. By the way, we're covering 4 things today. Right now I'm just sort of previewing them for you, but in today's lesson we will be covering a bit more of that first bucket. So I'm going to lay it out for you now, but then we're going to get into more on pitch, okay? So pitch, or we can call them, let's call it melody, harmony, rhythm. For the 4th thing in this month that I'd like to talk about, it may not be as obvious. I'm going to call it form. And what I mean by form, again, this is all about organization. That's actually the key word that I've said throughout all of these, right? Scales organize pitches into different groups. You can organize chords by the key of whatever you're in. Rhythm is about organizing by patterns, right? And form is about organizing sort of the structure of the whole song. And in different, I guess we could think about it as genres, right? Each genre has sort of a defining set of characteristics that make it unique and recognizable. Well, there's theory behind that too, okay? Now, when we look at a classical piece or an opera, or if we were to look at a quartet, or if we were to look at a sonata, right? Or if we were to look at a jazz tune, or a rock hit, right? A classic rock song. These all have defining qualities, including their sounds, the styles of music, related to the instruments, the instrumentation, but they also have their own sort of structures or forms. So that's the thing that we're going to talk about as our 4th category. Now, I'll give you a quick example of that. The form of a standard kind of pop or rock song, you could argue, would be verse, chorus, maybe bridge, and maybe 2 more choruses. That's a pretty standard form. And if you understand that form, then you actually are now going to be a better listener to that style of music because you'll understand it better. And you'll recognize, oh, they're at the bridge now, and that means they're probably coming back to the chorus. In fact, I do this all the time with my wife. We'll be listening to a commercial on TV or something, and I'll kind of sing along with it. And she'll say, "Oh, do you know that song?" And I'll say, "No," but I can kind of tell where it's going. And I've been doing this for years, but one of the reasons that I can do that is because I've studied forms and I get kind of where things want to go given the medium and given the context. And so if you guys want to get into that world too, studying form and what goes into organizing the structure of different kinds of songs will help you with that as well, okay? So that's kind of a layout of the month. We're going to be getting into all this stuff throughout the month, and I welcome your feedback on this stuff throughout the month as well. So what I'd like to do is get back to you guys real quick. I've been seeing the chat moving, and I want to say hey and see if you guys have any questions that I can answer. And then we're going to get back into our first bucket. We're going to dive a bit deeper, okay? And don't forget, there's a pop quiz coming up later on. You guys will have the chance to earn some free song credits for some correct answers. So hopefully that'll be fun, and if we like it, we can do that moving forward in the future as well. All right, let's check in. How we doing? Are people digging this so far? Let's see. Stanley. Oh, here we go. I'm trying to pick up where I left off. Hi from LA. Hey, Mark Dean. Hi from LA. How we doing? I wonder if there's a lot of playground users in LA. Whoever's watching from LA, just write LA. And later it'll be interesting to look through the comments and see if you guys are close. It might be fun to get together and have a group practice sesh. Okay, Woodsy Chris says, my first live lesson with a smiley face. How you doing, man? How are we doing? I hope that you're enjoying yourself so far. I'm glad you made it. Cool. All right, Stanley says, you do have the app. I took advantage of the Black Friday subscription sale and got myself a Casio from Sweetwater. Sweet. I'm a longtime guitarist looking to expand my arsenal and musical knowledge and proficiency. That is so cool. I mentioned earlier I did a one-on-one lesson with another playground user earlier today. He also was a guitarist, and he had a similar goal of trying to fuse them and work with them together, especially in his songwriting. So that was cool. I love, and maybe you can speak to this, Stanley, but when people come in from other instruments, it's always interesting to see their perspective on the piano. I think if you have one instrument down and you go to another instrument, you will learn that new instrument quicker or easier because you always bring something with you with the instruments that you learn. You bring it with you to the next one. So Stanley, what do you think? Was it easier to jump into piano with your guitar experience? Okay, I see a question here from Samo, how to build a melody. So perfect. This is one of the exact questions that leads me to why I want to do this theory stuff in the first place, is because people want to create. How do you make a melody? That's a great question. There's a lot that goes into that, but we're going to talk a lot about that. It has to do with some of the rules from theory, as you may have guessed. Okay, Lily Mae, pianist, has a guess for the jazz chord. She says, is that a G sharp major? Okay, here's the chord again. It's not a G sharp major, although you're right that there is a G sharp note in there, Lily Mae. Guess again. I'll give you a hint. Usually the lowest note of the chord, or the root, will suggest what the kind of a chord it is. So this is a G chord of some sort. G something. What might it be? Okay, let's keep moving. Anyone has another guess, feel free to leave it. All right, we got someone writing in from McConnellsburg, PA. Sweet. Let's see here. Oh, we got another LA. Oh man, we got a few LAs. That's what I expected. iRealty Pro, LA. Cool, cool. Hey, let's try something. Anyone from Ohio besides me? Write OH and I might write IO. Okay, I'm going to get one more question in and then we'll get back to the lesson. Actually, I see, let's see here, let me read these. Charles Smith says there are 12 notes, but the notes from the pentatonic scale sound good over nearly any chord in a given key. Great observation, Charles. I can dig into that in just a sec because I think you're definitely right about that. Stand by on that. Chad says, excited about this month. 2 months into the app. Sweet, I'm glad you're here, and I'm excited for this month too. It's been great to see everyone wanting to do theory. Okay, so real quick, Charles, let me talk about this pentatonic thing you mentioned. This is one great thing that comes from really having a great understanding of theory, is I know a handful of different chords that will work under one scale. And the only reason I know that is because, it's like a formula that you study and you kind of memorize, and then you just know it. So unfortunately, there's not a shortcut for that, but I can kind of let this be a carrot at the end of the stick for you guys. In other words, I hope that this is motivation to show you that when you do understand theory, it can unlock stuff for you. But anyways, let me show you here. A pentatonic scale is a specific scale that organizes 5 notes together. And when you repeat that throughout, it sounds like that. And it is used in Eastern music, and it is used in the blues. So a pentatonic scale is more open. There are more wide intervals in there than your standard, major scale. And so because of that, there's more room for the scale to work over more chords. I'll show you what I mean. I'll take F minor pentatonic. I'm just going to play some different chords underneath, and then I'm going to get to our lesson on our first bucket on theory today. Okay, sorry, I'll stop. I could jam forever, but that's one scale in the right hand, never changed. Not only did I change chords in my left hand, I even changed keys and tonal centers, and it still works. So one of the things that clicks when you study these scales is, okay, that's a cool scale on its own, but how do I use that? Well, that's a great example, right? You can play a scale over all sorts of different chords, and it kind of sounds like a really cool riff or even a song. So great point, but I'm going to get back to the lesson at hand. We're going to be getting into our first bucket. Remember, I talked about pitch or melody, I talked about harmony, I talked about rhythm, and I talked about form. Well, today I'd like to dig more into pitch, and to do that, I want to talk about scale degrees, okay? This may be a review for some of you guys, but bear with me here, because I'm going to quiz you. Scale degrees, quick review. Every scale has a number associated with the notes in that scale. The major scale has 7 notes, and then the 8th on top is a repeat of the first, right? So there are 7 different notes, and each one is assigned that consecutive number. This is the first scale degree in the key of C. Here's the second scale degree, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and then here we're at the 1 again. So if I were to ask you guys, what is the 2? What's the second scale degree in the key of C major? If you didn't already know, you could look down and you could count up through your scale. Here's 1, there's 2, so the answer would be D. But how quickly can you answer that? If I said, what's the 6th scale degree of A flat, would you know right away? Would it take you some time? All right, that's what I want to talk about today, because this isn't just about memorizing a formula. This is about applying it and practicing it. That's why I want to bring you guys something fun later. We're going to do this pop quiz for that reason, because we have to practice the theory, right? We can't sit down and play it and get a score on the theory in the app. So this is going to be that. All right. Does anyone know what the 5th scale degree is in the key of C? And let's see who writes it first. This is just a practice round. But I'm going to give you guys a little second to answer that. And then we're going to level set, and we're going to try to do it for real after I show you a few more scales, okay? So what is the 5th scale degree in the key of C? I'm going to play and let you guys answer. Okay, I'm seeing a bunch of answers come through. Oh, hey, Stu last. Oh, Stu has a guess on the jazz chord from earlier. A G7, Stu, you're right, you get partial credit, but there's more. It's a G7 something. One more time for you, Stu. It's more than that. Here's the G7. Here's the rest. Okay, let's see if we have some guesses here on what's the 5th scale degree in the key of C. All right, I'm seeing a bunch of G's towards the end there. G is the correct answer. Good job. So here's how I'd like to do this game, you guys. I'm going to go over a couple scales, and then I'm going to do what we just did, and I'm going to pick the first correct answer that I see in the chat. We're going to do a handful of these. If I call your name, you've won. You've won a free song credit in the app. And in order to collect your free song credit, what I'm going to ask you to do is email support and say, hey, I won the YouTube pop quiz song credit, and Maria is going to handle issuing that to your account. So let's see if we can have some fun with that. I'm seeing a lot of G's. Good job, everyone. The 5th scale degree in the key of C is G. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, let's try another one. Let's look at the key of F. Okay, ready everyone? What is the 6? What's the 6 in the key of F? This kind of sounds like a spa. So remember, I said we're in the key of F. I'm looking for the 6th scale degree, and I need the first answer to be a... Let's see, we got people writing in yet? Sorry, there's a little bit of a delay, so I want to make sure I give you guys enough time here. We're in the key of G, and I said, what's the, key of F, and I said, what's the 6? And the answer is D, and I see Chad Miller was the first to throw down a D for that answer. So Chad, you've won a free song credit.
I think that's actually from the last question.
Oh, is it? Maybe that is from the last question.
Mark Dean was first.
Oh, I'm sorry. I totally messed up. I think that was from the last question. So Chad, I'll tell you what, man. Since I had called your name and I messed up, I'm going to give you a free song credit too. But the actual winner, thank you, Aiden, of this question was Mark Dean, and the answer was D. So if you didn't get D, let's break this down for a second and figure out how we can answer that question. First, you have to know your scale. We're in the key of F here for this example, and we have to figure out what our major scale is. There's a formula for that. You can start on your note, and here's the formula. Ready? Whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. One more time. Whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. So you start on a note, and you go whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. And then you can test it. Did that sound like the major scale? It did. So now that we know our scale from our whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half formula, we can play our scale. Now we can count up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And 6 is D, okay? So by the way, one rule, guys, if you've won, and this now includes you too, Chad, since you won on accident earlier, you can't win again, but I hope you'll still participate. Okay, so that's how we do it. So let's do another one in the key of F for all of you. We just demoed it, but I'm going to change the rules here a little bit. Don't get mad at me, guys, but I'm going to pick... Okay, in the key of F, the 4th scale degree is flat, right? So I'm going to pick our 4th correct answer. The 4th correct answer I see is actually going to be the winner here, not the first. So we're in the key of F. Here's your question. You ready? What is the 7th scale degree? Go. And remember, I'm looking for the 4th correct answer. Can't always be the first one. Don't be mad at me if, if this gets out of hand, guys. All right, I'm going to play a little bit and give you a second to answer. Okay, I see some answers coming through now. So the question was, in the key of F, what is the 7th scale degree? The answer is E. So I'm seeing some E's come through. I see the first one, the second one, the third one, and the fourth one is Stanley. Heyo! Stanley, it's your first live lesson here with us, and you won a free song credit. So once again, all of you winners, email support@Playground and say, hey, I want a free song credit in the YouTube live pop quiz. Please give me a song credit. All right, sweet. Okay, let's do another one, and then I want to talk a little bit more about why this matters more, right? It's fun to get a prize, and it's fun to be able to get the right answer, but what's the application of this? How does this help our playing? How does this help me become a better pianist, okay? Well, aside from that you're learning more theory, even if you didn't realize it right now, there are more benefits too. So let's pick another one. This is going to be a little harder this time. I'm going to pick a scale that has maybe some more sharps and flats in it, or sharps or flats, I should say. There's some trivia for you. Is there any scale that has sharps and flats in it? Oh man, I should have probably checked that before I said it, but I believe the answer is no. All right, so I'm going to hit you guys with a hard one, a super hard one. The key of G flat major. Waiting for the Wilhelm scream. Just kidding. G flat major. What is the... Okay, first, before I ask, sorry. We are going to be looking for the third correct answer for this one, so you guys got to be quick, but not too quick. Key of G flat major. I'll play it real quick for you, and then I'm going to take my hands off, and then I'm going to ask you. Ready? What's the 4th scale degree? All right, I'm going to play a little bit while you guys answer that. The 4th scale degree in the key of G flat. Looking for the third correct answer. The question was, what is the 4th scale degree in the key of G flat? Oh man, I'm going to let some more answers come in because this is a tough one. Remember guys, I'm going to actually, I'll let you answer a bit more, and then I'm going to walk you through our formula again. Remember, it's pick your note, and here I said it's G flat, and then you want to go up a whole step, a whole step, a half step, a whole step, a whole step, a whole step, half step. If you do that, that'll give you your major scale. Then you can count up, and you can look at what note, what's the fourth note, right? That's what we're trying to find. Now, the challenge here is then going to be, are we spelling it correctly? That's a hint. All right, now I said I'm going to pick the third correct answer for this one. I'm going to go ahead and say the answer now. The answer is this note. But what do we call this note? That's not a B. And for those of you who said B, it looks like a B on the piano, right? But in the context of this key that we're in, the key of G flat, this is actually a C flat. Don't be mad at me, guys. That's a real one. C flat. And the reason is because every scale that we play has to have one of each musical alphabet letter represented. Okay, so think about this. G flat, A flat, B flat, B? Now, we can't have two Bs, a G flat, an A flat, a B flat, and a B. And then this would be D flat, so we would have two versions of B and no Cs. So even though C flat sounds weird, it's the right answer in this key. And so the third C flat that I see the first one goes to JP, good job. Stu last, you were a little too quick. And then let's see here, the third one looks like Kimberly Smith. Okay, Kimberly, well done. That was an advanced one, okay? So this stuff is really important, all right? I can't stress that enough. This stuff is not just trivia, okay? And I'm going to show you why. I mentioned I did a one-on-one lesson earlier today with a playground user named John, and he has been playing guitar for a while and piano for a couple years, and he's a songwriter. And he was asking me, how do I fill out my chords more? How do I add variety to my chord progressions? How do I know what are some cool notes I can add to my chords so that they don't sound the same each time I play them? And so on, okay? Now, that wasn't an impression of John. Those are just general types of questions that I hear, including some from John as well. And so my answer to John, basically, it kind of fell back to theory. The more you understand the rules of what can be used with what and what shouldn't be used, the more you'll be able to answer those questions for yourself. So all of us, including our CEO, Chris Vance, who has been playing via playground sessions for years, he's getting pretty advanced now. He would even say to you the same thing. And it doesn't even matter what your skill level is. You get to a point where you say, okay, I know some stuff, but I have this itch, and I don't know how to scratch it. I just want to be better in some way. Learn another song, maybe. Be able to improvise, not necessarily, but I just am hearing something that isn't quite coming out. I just don't really know exactly what it is. You'll be surprised how often the answer to that is theory. You just got to dig into the theory more. So one thing John and I talked about today was adding color notes to some of his chords and finding some common tones in a whole chord progression. I'll give you an example of what something like that would sound like. So I'll do a chord progression, and then I'll have a note or two in the right hand that I'll kind of stay constant throughout. Okay, let me show you. Okay, that could be a number of songs. Actually, I was hearing a melody or two from the radio in my head over that. I wasn't even meaning to play that, but that is just kind of a basic progression: 1, 5, 6, 4. And in my right hand, I was doing just these two notes, or just these two notes. Now, it seems really simple and obvious when you look at it like that, but if I were to ask you to figure out your own version of that, it might be difficult, but it would be easy if you understood the theory rules. And let me break that down for you for a second. I'm going to be talking about things in, you guessed it, scale degrees. It all boils back down to scale degrees. If you have a major chord, for example, let's say C major. Any major chord, this is true, but let's use C as a demo. You can add some color notes, including the 2, and including the 6, and including the 7. Now, we already did a bit of a quiz on this. Do we know the 2, the 6, and the 7 in the key of C? Well, 2 is D, 6 is A, 7 is B. So you can add those. And in fact, what I did earlier was this. Notice, that's that D. So I've added the 2 to my C chord. And then this is the 5th. So any major chord, you can add the 2. You can add the 6. You can add the 7. All right? And then on a minor chord, let's say A minor, on minor chords, you can add the 2, you can add the 4, and you can add the flat 7. Let's figure out what that would be for A minor. The 2 would be B, the 4 is D, and the flat 7 is G. So again, you heard me say B, D, and G. Look at this. G and D up here in the right hand. That's what I was playing over the C chord. When I go to the A minor chord, I can keep it the same, which is so satisfying to the ear. It really gels everything together. I've done that across all 4 chords in my progression here, and I've only done that because I know what scale degrees I can add to what chords. And it actually comes very quickly to me, so to the point where I can do it on the fly. But that's only because I've practiced my theory, and I've done exactly what we have done today, what you guys have done today, which is hear a question about about theory and answer it and practice it and just repeat, repeat, repeat. So I would encourage you guys to try to find some sort of like a flashcard system where you can just test yourself with this stuff. Because I promise, if you want to be able to play like I just played, especially kind of on the fly, I promise you that putting in the time to memorize these formulas and scale degrees and rules will be that bridge to get you there. I promise. Okay? So I want to leave you with just those formulas one last time. I know we talked about some of this stuff in a previous chords lesson, and it does obviously have a chord application. We're talking about adding a note to a chord. But at the root of that, the fundamental sort of essence of that is the color note itself is a scale degree, right? That's what we have to tie it back to. You can't add color notes if you don't know what scale degree is anchoring us down. Okay, then it could be anything, and that can be intimidating. It can be overwhelming, in fact. In fact, I want to leave you with, let's see. We're going to do one more pop quiz question, because that was fun. But first, I want to just tell a story from Harry Connick Jr. that kind of highlights this point that I'm trying to make about rules and how they can help your musicality instead of take away from them. I'm going to paraphrase a bit, but Harry talks about improvisation. In the boot camp, actually, he gives a lesson on improvisation. And what he talks about is that improvisation still has rules. There's still boundaries. And now there does exist a kind of improvisation that is fully free. And that might sound something like this. It's gestural. It doesn't follow your traditional music theory rules. And it's not necessarily valid or invalid. But Harry makes a point to say that he's not a big fan of that kind of improvisation because it's easy to make stuff up when there's no rules, Harry would say, right? So he relates it to if you're a quarterback in a football game and you're trying to score a touchdown and you start running down the field and there's defense in your way. So you turn down into the bleachers and you go into the snack bar and then you come around and you come back into the end zone from behind. Is that really a touchdown? No. He's in the end zone, but he didn't follow the rules, right? So if you're going to play the game, you got to follow the rules. And I think that there's something to be said for music with that same sentiment. Okay, pop quiz time, everyone. Get your fingers ready. Let's see here. I'm going to reverse this. I'm going to play a note on the keyboard, and then I'm going to say, what scale is this note the fifth scale degree of? So I'll give you a practice one so you can see what I mean. If I played this note, which is a G, I would say, what key is this the fifth scale degree of? And your answer would be C. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. G is 5 in the key of C. So my question would be, in what key is G the 5 scale degree? Okay, you with me? All right. In what major key is this note the third of? What major key is this note the third of? And I'm going to give it to the third correct answer. This note is the third of what major scale? And I will just play a bit and give you guys a few seconds to respond. All right. Let's check the chat, see how we're doing. Okay, we got a lot of answers coming in. I see some close ones. So I see here someone first is asking about the support number. So sure, thank you. Aiden did that. Thank you for writing that, Aiden. But call or email support either way to claim your free song credit. Just give your username and your email associated with your account, and Maria will hook you up with a free song credit. Or if you prefer to call in, I'm sure she could help you with that too. Thanks, Maria. Okay, so the question was, what scale is this note the third scale degree of? This could either be a G sharp or an A flat. But the correct answer, I guess, would be G sharp for this scale. And the answer is E. E, F sharp, G. G is the third in the key of E major. And I said I would pick the third answer. Okay, so I see Stu says E, correct. I see Hava's Mama 05 says E, and I see ASAP 1234 says E. You are the third correct answer, ASAP 1234. Great work. Once again, email support, and we will hook you up with a free song credit. Are we liking this pop quiz, guys? Can we do this each week? Would this be fun to do? Let me know. Just give me a yes or a no. And if so, we'll do it each time, and I can come up with some fun things to quiz you guys on. Okay? It's super important that you guys practice this stuff. And this is something I told my student earlier today as well. I said, yes, we talked about some good theory stuff today, but the key comes now with you at home building this into your practice time. Now, how do you do that? It's not as easy to just sit down and play when you're talking about theory stuff. Again, I mentioned that a flashcard system, despite sounding kind of old school, is really still one of the most effective ways at just memorizing stuff like this. So you can find stuff like that'll just give you questions. What's the sixth in the key of G? E. What's the seventh in the key of G sharp? You can just test how quickly you can do it. That is invaluable, okay? So I would encourage all of you, no matter what level you're at, to build at least a little bit of that into your regular practice routine. I promise you, you will see yourself improving with your theory knowledge. You will also practice longer, because if you break up your practice sessions into different categories, instead of just, okay, I have 30 minutes to practice, so go, I'm going to practice. Instead, if you say, okay, I got 30 minutes, I'm going to do 10 minutes on theory, 10 minutes on sight reading, 10 minutes working on a song, for example, then it'll be over before you know it, and you'll be saying to yourself, man, I can keep going. I should practice longer. So that's another benefit of adding theory to your practice routine. All right, guys, I think we're going to leave it there for today. But just as a quick recap, January is Theory Month here for our live lessons. We talked about kind of the 4 territories we're going to cover this month. And we're going to get into a little bit of everything in each one, kind of, because there's crossover. But we'll focus mostly on one in each lesson. Today was mostly about the first bucket, which we're calling pitch. This is kind of like melody theory. Next week, next Wednesday, 1 week from today, same time, 6 p.m. Eastern, we are going to be covering that second pillar, which is harmony. Okay? So we've talked about some chord stuff in the past, but we're going to get more theoretical this time. And that will be our second lesson in January. The third one is going to be on rhythm. We're going to talk about time signatures and subdivisions and all the stuff about rhythm that is kind of mathy. And we're going to talk about how that can benefit your playing, as well as your internal sense of time and groove. Rhythm's important. And then lastly, we're going to talk about form. We're going to talk about genres. And we're going to see how music in each genre uses elements from these first 3 buckets uniquely to make their song, make their musical style what it is. All right, so that'll kind of be a wrap-up that ties in everything. And at that time, I'll also ask you guys to vote on February's topic, and we'll see if this works in 2020. Last year, we were doing a vote on every week. I think this will allow us to dive deeper into stuff if we have a theme. So, as always, guys, thanks for growing with us. Thanks for watching our live lessons evolve. We really appreciate you hanging with us. I guess I'll leave it with a little bit of a what's new. I just want to remind everyone that we are all over all social channels. So we have an Instagram page that offers some new types of content that we're not posting on Facebook or YouTube. Facebook, we've got our own channel with a holiday, not a holiday, excuse me, a social challenge. Last month we did the holiday challenge. But every month or so we do a challenge where we ask you guys to participate and post videos of yourselves playing on the Facebook community. And then we also pull from submissions to give out prizes. And sometimes we'll give out keyboards. And in fact, John, who I met with earlier today, he was one of the winners from the last challenge, and his prize was a lesson with me. So make sure you check out the Facebook group and join the community and participate in those challenges if you want to win some prizes. And of course, you got to subscribe to YouTube if you haven't subscribed yet. That would mean the world to us. We're putting out tutorials that are pre-recorded for songs that we have in our interactive app, as well as these live lessons. And we're going to get back into those Q&A videos as well as some new types of content that Aiden and I are working on as well. So stay tuned there. And the next holiday, I keep saying holiday challenge, the next social challenge, I'm still in the holiday mindset here, guys. The next social challenge is going to be kicking off very soon. I know we're already into January, but the holiday break there kind of threw a wrench in a bit. So hang tight and join the Facebook community if you haven't yet. Keep an eye out for that next challenge. All right, I'll see you guys 1 week from today. We're going to be talking theory part 2. And this is called an augmented triad. So we got major. For dominant 7 chords, we have a major triad with a flat 7. It's very similar to what Harry showed, but it has a bit more of a bluesy feel. So